So Devin Toner, you're very welcome to the Bulletproof Dad podcast. How are you, sir?
All good, thanks for having me.
So you had to spin across the M50 for your troubles this morning
Absolutely.
to get here, yeah?
Had to drop Grace to crash and then straight over the M50, or sorry, into the tunnel.
Had you, just for context, this is the week before Halloween. The schools are finishing today of recording. Had you a fancy dress in the house today?
We did. Max told us last night that they were dressing up. So
Okay.
my wife got into making mode at 7 p.m. last night, and she pulled out a cracker of a costume. It was one of those ones where you get a backpack and you get the cardboard in the backpack and you put a shirt over it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you hold the head. So it's like a body holding the head
That's
around.
cool,
So he was chuffed going into.
He's gone to school, freaking everybody out like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
100%, yeah. But she pulled it out of the bag.
And what's your daughter gone in as?
She's crashed, so she wasn't going in as it. Next week she'll be going in as like usual princess or
Cool, yeah.
or
That's
something.
a day to
The
day
usual
thing.
stuff.
It doesn't have to be Halloween. My
Just pretty
daughter's
much
the
dress up
same,
every
yeah.
Friday
Yeah.
in crash.
Yeah, my daughter would be the same, all right. But look, Dev, it's great to get you in. So like big thing today is obviously talk about the phenomenal rugby career you've had, like the level of caps you've had and what you've achieved over the years is pretty special considering the injury rate in rugby for one thing, particularly in your position as well. So we'll definitely get into that. So like I am conscious, a lot of people mightn't realise that you're from County Meath originally. So you grew up during the 90s in Meath. So chances are you would have been tipped for a Gaelic footballer. But how did the rugby thing come about?
It came about because of my size, basically. Yeah. So yeah, I grew up in a little parish called Moynalvey. It's on the border of Meath and Kildare, so near Kilcock. And then obviously I played Gaelic with Moynalvey up till maybe minor. I was never really any good, to be honest, and they were always kind of trying me in loads of different positions. So I started off in goals because I was kind of big, and then I was in full back, and then they tried to put me in midfield for one game, and then I just realised that I was not fit enough at all, and that you have to actually mark someone and then try again. I just wasn't fit enough, and then I ended up full forward. So they just kicked in some high balls to me. I was always handy for a few goals, but again, I was nothing special, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, and then obviously Dad saw the size of me and my brother, and they were like, I have a brother, Dara. He's a year and a half older than me. So, so the two of us, he kind of saw us, and so they brought us down to North Kildare Rugby Club, under 8s, under 10s. So we started doing that, and then we kind of went to a rugby playing school as well. We went to Castleknock College.
Okay, yeah.
So he kind of knew we were going there, and he knew it was rugby playing, so he kind of got us involved in that. So and then it kind of started from there.
Had you was rugby more your passion, or was it just something you did for a bit of crack?
No,
really?
it wasn't a passion really. Yeah. Like you can't. I don't think you can really have. Well, I suppose you can these days, but I didn't have any passions back then. Like, you know, it was something you did. It was something. It was just a sport you played.
Well, I'm sure it was a big deal though in Castleknock College, where like you know it's a rugby schools and like you can see schools rugby, like it's a big deal across the board. Like I'd say like being in school, it would have got a lot of positive attention if you were on the team.
Yeah, I think it gets obviously more important the closer you get to junior cup and senior cup. It's not like, so like when you're in first year or second year, I wouldn't have said that was that important. Do you know what I mean? Like, so on the first day when you go into, or the first training session in first year, you go in and you're like, okay lads, hands up who has ever played rugby before, and everybody put your hand up and they're like, wait, over there you're the A's.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? There's the B's and the C's,
that,
and then you just kick it on from there. Like, do you know what I mean? So then obviously once you get closer to junior cup, you kind of understand the importance of it and I suppose the level you have to get to.
And would you've always played in that position as kind of second row, even from a young age?
No, I started off number 8 in first year and second year, but then obviously they saw the size of me. They were like, "You were going to be the second row for the rest of your life." So
okay, right,
get in there now.
How did that affect you? Like, because obviously as a young lad, like I'm only 6 foot. Thereabouts, but when I was in primary school I had a big growth spurt and I was very self-conscious of my height when I was young. Now it leveled off fairly quickly for me, but like how would that have been for you? Like I used to round my shoulders. I remember
no, I was very self-conscious.
Used to give out to me, like
no, absolutely. Early days I was very self-conscious and not that I hated it, but I hated crowds and I hated being in public because I could just see people like looking at me and kind of I didn't like the limelight. I didn't like it at all. And as I said, I was very self-conscious. But then it's one of those things that you kind of you grow to live with, and then you grow to like in the end, and you grow to love it. I love it now. Like,
it kind of became your superpower, like in
absolutely.
a way. Like
100%. And now I kind of enjoy it, and it's kind of one of those things that I see. Obviously, my young fella Max and Grace, they're both going to be tall, so it's kind of I'll hopefully be able to help them when they're growing up with it. Like.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So getting back to the rugby side of things, like you would obviously done your leaving stuff in Castleknock College. Then the step, as I mentioned to you, we actually graced at some point in UCD, we graced the same lecture hall at some point for a couple of lectures and nothing else. So you went to UCD and you studied sports and exercise management like myself.
Yeah.
Was that, I assume that's when the Leinster Academy stuff started to kick in then, was that?
Yeah, it was kind of all happening at the same time, really.
Yeah.
So like I left 6th year in 04 and then joined UCD. I started off doing arts, but dropped out of that after half a year because I realised it just wasn't for me. And then the year after, I went and did sports management, but coincidentally, we did Leinster Academy as well. So my first year out of school, I did the sub academy, then 1 year in the academy, and then I got a development contract. So I got into the senior squad then. So 2 years out, I was kind of training full time in the senior squad. And it's when you kind of get there first, it's hard to do both. But I managed it. Do you know what I mean? So like we say we were in college together, but you probably rarely saw me.
That's what I think. Yeah, I think you might have been 1 or 2 lectures. And
Yeah.
I just remember. I always remember. I was like, there was 1 or 2 lens. Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe Johnny Sexton might have been in 1 or 2 of the lectures as well. Was Johnny in around the same time as you? I could be wrong now. There was definitely 1 or 2 other players that I remember there was a big deal about a couple of Leinster lads and the tracksuits were on in the back of the room or something like that. It's like, who are these guys?
I don't think Johnny ever did sports management.
Possibly in 1 or 2 of the lectures. I could be wrong now. It could be someone else as well. So forgive me if I'm wrong. But getting back to, like, you did 2 years before you were straight in as kind of full on professional in the academy. So so were you 20 years old there?
I got my first cap for Leinster when I was 19 and I was in the academy then.
Yeah.
And then the following season I got the development contract. So then I was kind of 20 when I got my first full kind of contract.
What was it like going into like a senior dressing room when you're such a young lad coming into that area? Was it intimidating? Were you?
Yeah, it's daunting. Because there's obviously seasoned internationals in the dressing room with you. But there's a lot of people in the same boat with you. Do you know what I mean? So like when I was coming through, like I had Johnny, Rob Kearney, he got the contract the year before me. So me, Johnny, Rob, Sean O'Brien came up the year behind me. I had a good friend Kevin McLaughlin. Like we all were kind of coming through at the same time. So you're kind of have your own groups and cliques, I suppose. But again, it is intimidating, but you kind of it's one of those things that you kind of sink or swim, really.
Who would have been the big leaders of the team around them when you kind of came in first? Can you remember the kind of senior figures?
Well, Leo was obviously the main one. He was the captain. Leo, Draco, Dars, Shane Horgan, kind of Dennis Hickey at that stage. All those lads were class at that stage. I think we did have an Australian, Owen Finnegan, who was there, who was kind of considered a bit of a leader at the time, maybe. But that was only for a year or two then. And then who else was there? Malcolm O'Kelly was
all big names, so well established internationals. Yeah,
pretty much.
And what was it like? You say you came through there was a kind of gang that came through together. Would you have all kind of boarded and lived together? Was that part of the scene, or would you still been commuting from home, or how was the setup in the early years?
Yeah, when I left Meath, I stayed on campus for a year with some random other UCD students.
That's not ideal circumstances when you're trying to make as a professional athlete, I'm
sure.
No,
not at all. And then the year after, we kind of got so I lived with a good friend of mine who was in the academy with me called Kieran Maloney, and then I lived with Fionn Carr for a bit as well. Right. Who had his own Leinster career and went playing Connacht as well. So lads would kind of live together, but obviously the lads who were in school in Dublin stayed at home and took a while to move out because it's obviously hard in Dublin, especially these days as well. Like, but back then it wasn't too bad. But most lads kind of maybe tried to stick together.
Cool. And when you first broke into the squad, who was the manager around that time?
Checker.
Yeah.
Checker.
Had he just come in, or was he there?
He had just come in. Yeah. So my very first training session with Leinster for as soon as I got out was actually Declan Kidney.
Okay, yeah.
He brought me in for one session, but then he left and went down to Munster.
Yeah.
So then Checker came in, and then he was in charge of from the start. Then that
was you kind of start like that would have been kind of start of the crest of the wave of the real professional setup coming in. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like, what were the first things you kind of realised that the first early years of like, I'm going to be a professional athlete now? What were the things that you kind of was brought to your attention that you needed to really double down and focus on to be a proper professional here? Was there anything that stood out in the early years? Like, if I'm going to make this is the sort of stuff I'm going to have to dedicate my life to.
Yeah, it's just the discipline that you realise that you're actually going to try this as a job. You need to be disciplined in everything that you do. Like, you need to be on time. You need to be dialed in. You need to obviously kind of hone your craft, I suppose, and you got to throw everything at it, you know. So like it was the discipline of like being on time, not late for any meetings, and that was kind of the start of it. Like Cheka, he was hard on the younger lads, do you know what I mean? But it was so good for all of us as well. Like we had a.
Were you afraid of him in the early stages?
You would have been, yeah.
He strikes me as a fiery character.
Absolutely,
now, yeah.
the young lads would have been petrified. Like if I remember one stage I was late for a meeting, and it was like maybe 5 minutes late, and I saw that the meeting was on. And I literally, I didn't go in. I was like, I pretended, like I saw that, then I saw the door open, they're all coming out, and then I kind of joined the crowd as they were coming back out. So it was like, and actually I got away with it in the end. Like
that's pretty special, because I'd say you, like, especially with your height, it's very hard to blend in.
But like it was a meeting that I knew I wasn't going to be involved in because I wasn't playing the game, or I wasn't going to be involved in the actual meeting. So, but like I'm not going to pull attention to myself walking in the door late.
I probably would have done the same.
And then it would have been, I probably would have been told to get out anyway.
Yeah.
You know, because you're late, you know.
And how many years are you playing then? Like in Leinster, you're honing your craft, as you said, you're dedicating your life to this. You start breaking into the team then. When does the Ireland call come then? How soon after?
I got my first Ireland cap in 2010. So Decky Kidney was the Ireland coach in 2010. So I was 24. Yeah. So I'd started playing a good kind of regularly with Leinster for about 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and then got capped in 2010. I got three caps in 2010 in the November internationals, and then didn't get capped again until 2013.
Okay,
so I was kind of out there for a little bit, like so it was kind of not that I was waiting.
Who did you make your debut against?
So Samoa.
Okay.
So there was I played against Samoa, Argentina, and New Zealand.
Wow.
But
okay.
If I look back on it, I actually probably was only meant to get capped against Samoa.
Right.
Because Donica Ryan had gotten a red card, I think, and got a ban. So that means I got on the bench. I got on the bench for Argentina, I got on the bench for New Zealand. So I got 3 caps.
At that period, that would have been, what would that be, like O'Callaghan and O'Connell that were kind of ahead of you? Yeah. So like again.
Yeah, Mick O'Driscoll, and Donica Ryan, Donica O'Callaghan, Paul O'Connell, and then I was kind of coming up with Dan Toohey as well. Was kind of similar age as me, kind of coming in. Mike McCarthy as well, kind of thing.
Yeah,
right?
they're very, but that's a very, like for where there's literally only 2 positions, there's a lot of competition there.
And
fair.
Leo as well, Leo Cullen.
Yeah,
you know. So,
So pretty much the 2 of the biggest leaders that Ireland have had are ahead of you there. It's a tough nut to crack, to be fair. When you came back in then a couple of years later at that 2-year gap, like what was the feeling like? You had your chance, you played 3 games, and then you kind of fall back, and I'm sure you're chatting to the lads who you're playing with, who are getting off the camp and stuff. Do you feel you're not going to get back there when it takes 2 years again, or were you given any advice? Do you have any dialogue with, say, Declan Kidney, if he's still the manager at that stage?
No, I was still kind of in and around the squads. And
how so? Would you be called into different camps?
Yeah, so like a training camp would be 40 players,
right?
But there's only like obviously 23 playing the game. You know, so like you have the training squad. So I was kind of in the squad training because obviously the starters need to train against a full team. So I'd be kind of holding bags, knowing I'm not playing. Do you know what I mean? And then you go back to Leinster for Leinster games. So I was always involved in the squad, and I was always involved in and around, but I just never got that last pick after those couple of caps. But you do have a dialogue with the coach, and it tells you what you need to do when you're going. But in my head, I'm like, here, Paul O'Connell and Donegal O'Callaghan and Mick O'Driscoll are all there. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just going to bide my time. Yeah. And it kind of worked out, I suppose, in the end. Like I kind of knew that if I bided my time, I'd be able to get there in the end.
And when you came back in to then become like a prominent figure, that was when Joe Schmidt had transitioned. So like I'm sure that helped that you had a good relationship with him because he obviously 100%. Came in at Leinster. So how many years in total? He was probably your manager between Ireland and Leinster for probably 10 years or so. I have some dates on my sheet.
I'm trying to remember when he came into Leinster.
When
he came into Leinster.
Just actually on that, because he came in straight after Cheka. Yeah. Like I'd imagine their styles are very different. Are they two quite different in their approach?
Different but same. Do you know what I mean? So like they're both very intimidating. You don't want to put a foot wrong. You like Joe was very much about getting your detail right, getting your moves, getting your plans, and getting your body height. Everything has to be completely on the money. Do you know what I mean? So you just don't want to put anything wrong when you're working with Joe. And I think I did well under Joe when he came in with Leinster as well, because he liked people who were able to do their jobs. Do you know what I mean? So like I know I'm 6'10". I have a job to do. I need to win lineouts. I need to be good at restarts. I need to do the good things well. I need to hit rucks, and I need to have a good defense. Do you mean? So I was able to do all that to a sufficient standard to get me into the team, and that's probably what worked for me under Joe, because Joe wanted people who were able to do their jobs right.
But he made that clear to you, did he, early on, that this is what I want from you, so you knew what you kind of had to double down and focus on?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
which is
I
big part of management.
I know why I'm there. I know, I was never the best ball carrier. I was never I never set the stadium alight. Do you know what I mean? I was never the big show, I suppose. Do you know what I mean?
Look, when you look at the caps and the career
exactly,
fast,
but I built it because I was consistent.
But the line out is kind of an interesting part. Like, we're trying not to get too technical on the rugby side of things, but like, would you, like, you see line out goes in, it's a big part of the set piece, and like, you often talk about like the worst possession you can cough up is if you give away your own line out, because you're very vulnerable. So it's a big part of the game. When you see the calls and the combinations and the little whispers that are going on, are you, like, because you're one of the main men in the line, are you calling that and dictating that, or are you just part of the process? Like, is it the hooker that calls it, or is it say who's captain, or
no? It'd be me. It'd be the line-out caller. Yeah. So every game, there's one person who's calling the line-outs. Yeah. So for
Leinster and Ireland, you would have been. This was your role.
Well, that's what I excelled at. Yeah. So my first couple of years with Ireland, it was me and Paul O'Connell. So Paulie was the line-out caller. That's why I kind of enjoyed my first two seasons with Ireland, because there was no pressure on me. I was able to just kind of play and do it, and that was my main learning period. Kind of for lineouts with Paulie, because he was class at it. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So I learned a lot off him in those kind of 2 years. So I was able to kind of take the pressure off, because there is a lot of pressure on lineout calling. Like it consumes you. Do you know what I mean? So like, if you're going into an international game and you're calling lineout, you know there's a lot of pressure on you to get the ball and
like, without giving away all the secrets, like how do the codes look? Are they numbers? Are they names? Or does it change?
They're different. They change all the time. Yeah. They change all the time. I don't know what they are now. Do you know what I mean? So like, I know that when we were doing it, we had a word. Do you know what I mean? A 5-letter word, and each letter would show you where in the line it was going, and then we would have like a different code saying like a blue would be going forward or red be going back. So like a F blue would be F going forward.
And would it have to change every game of the fear that it was leaked, or would it be kind of consistent?
No, well, because in the tail end of it, it was, you would be called out before you go in, so they wouldn't hear it. So you would get into a huddle, you'd tell everyone, then the loose head would go and tell the hooker what it was, and then he'd set the line, everyone would walk in, and then you go and do it. Do you know what I mean? So it's not in the old days, you used to like shout it out loud, and then people might be able to hear it, and you might be able to decipher it, but it doesn't really work like that anymore.
Okay, cool. Just, it's always, when you see you're watching something, you see what they're whispering about, or what the...
But you'd have one call, but then you'd have bailouts as well. So if you have a call and you call it, and then you walk in and you see that it's marked, then you have a bailout to go to the front or go to the back, or you see...
So you're reacting to what the opposition set up is.
Sometimes you might see someone put a hand up, and that might go to the tail, or if someone puts their hand, and then it goes in front of them. So like, they're little things that you might be able to pick up in videos and stuff like. Yeah,
there's a lot to it, like, because again, it's great you go in with a plan, but then like that,
it's all consuming when you're a line-out caller, because there's other stuff that you have to nail as well. You need to nail your body height. You need to nail your attacking, like your scrums, your mauls, your obviously your line-out, your moves, and you need to be able to obviously do your thing as well. Yeah, no,
there's a lot, like I said, it's just interesting because there's a lot of responsibility to that role, and again, often just wondered how it worked, because again, it's like you've set piece coaches in rugby, so like that's the level of detail it goes to. So,
well, it's just so important, because that was one of the big things with Joe and his teams as well, that we scored off set pieces. He had really good moves, so in order to get the move going, we needed to win the line out. If we didn't win the line out, we're screwed.
Yeah, it all falls apart from there.
Absolutely,
delivery is key. Just going back then, like, because we spoke about there, like, you're playing with Leinster, like, and you would have been playing big games with Leinster, like, again, like, involved in massive Heineken Cup games. Was the feel playing for Ireland a bit different, particularly when you got established in the squad and the Six Nations games? And the Six Nations games are probably in particular to start with, because, like, again, you're staying in the likes of the Shelburne the night before. Like again, part of me is like, it's such a cool place to stay, but I don't know, it's not particularly a quiet part of town.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's a great buzzes and an atmosphere around the day.
Yeah.
Like, was there a different feel when you were playing for Ireland versus playing for Leinster?
Yeah, absolutely.
Added attention and pressure.
Yeah, everyone knows. Yeah, there's a huge amount of pressure, but there's just something more special about it. Like, obviously Leinster's your day to day, and the big games are the big games, but you might have, like, obviously 2 finals a year that you play in. But for when you're playing for Ireland, every game seems like a final. Every game is so important, and there's just something special about playing a home game for Ireland in the Six Nations, being able to stay in town. So when I was playing, we were playing and staying in Carton House. So we train on Monday, Tuesday, have a Wednesday off. Thursday we train in Carton, and then in the afternoon we drive up to the Shelburne. And then it'd be class because you'd be going in, doing your valet park and give the keys in the lads. So then you get your room. You'll have class food, and then the Friday we would do a captain's run in the Aviva, and then go back, and then there always used to be a crew of us that went down to Lemon to get some crepes and ice creams and stuff. So everyone just used to belt around town, and just the buzz, and you seen everyone. And then it was special on game days as well, because obviously game days around town is huge. Everyone's in the jerseys.
They're all around that area.
They're all around that area, and everyone kind of knows we stay there. So everyone would pack around the Shelburne to see you coming out, getting onto the bus. And then the drive from the Shelburne into the stadium was class as well, because everyone sees the bus, everyone's clapping, and it's just a huge feel good moment.
And are you, like, could you have the perspective to enjoy that and embrace that and feel good off that, or would you have the crippling nerves coming in as to, oh geez, the responsibility?
A bit of both.
Yeah.
Do you know? Because there's a lot of like as you said, there is that crippling responsibility, and there's a lot of pressure on you, but you enjoy it as well. You know, there's no beating around the bush. You do enjoy it, like.
Yeah, and I like, again, it's a very hard thing to describe. I think it's something you have to obviously experience at that level. Yeah. Going back then, like, we would have seen a couple of weeks ago, like in the big game in Croke Park, like it's something that kind of stood out for me watching that game is, like, at the end, like, so many of the guys between Munster and Leinster is obviously a massive rivalry, and again, same with the likes of Connacht and Ulster, but particularly, I suppose, Munster and Leinster has probably a longer feud over the years. Like, the guys are so close, particularly the guys that play in Ireland together. Like, you seen after, because it was such a special event in Croker, a lot of the guys had their families out after, the kids are on the pitch, and it's very rare where you see, like, opposition players playing with the kids of the opposition, because they all know each other. They're that close. Like, would you found those games quite awkward or challenging to get up for, or did it matter? No.
It's not a challenge to get up for an Interpro. Interpros are special in their own way as well. But as you say, you know everyone in Irish rugby. Do you know what I mean? And after the game is done, everyone's just friends. Do you know what I mean? Because you know everyone from camp, you know their family, you know their friends, you know their parents, you know their kids. You know, it's like, so everyone gets on very well. You know. And as I said, it's not hard to get up for either, because you know they're so important as well. And
what would the atmosphere be like on the, say, going back to the Ireland games, like, say, post Six Nations game, like, we don't have a game for a week, like, it seems to be a really good tradition in rugby where, like, you sit down and dress with each other, you have a beer after, and whether a slice of pizza or whatever. Like, was that kind of standard across the board? Or is it something you every single game you would have done?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Standard. You don't really, because you can eat whatever you want that night, because you're after
job done.
Job done. You're actually just expelling so many calories.
Daniel Davey was fairly calm and stuff like that, was he?
He was grand. He was grand. Yeah. But you can eat whatever you want, not drink whatever you want. Do you mean, like, it kind of depends what you have the week after, whether it's a hard night or not. Do you know what I mean? But like, 2 or 3 cans afterwards would do no harm. Like, but
would you have got quite close with any lads in any other countries, like, over the years? That I'm sure there's a couple of lads between like playing their clubs.
I wouldn't really have gotten close to anyone. Do you mean, like, it's different for the lads with the Lions? Do you know what I mean? So the lads who actually played Lions would have gotten close with the England and Welsh lads. Do you know what I mean?
Were you ever on the periphery of any of the Lions stars? Did you ever come close? You think?
No, I don't think I was ever in the mix, to be honest. Yeah. Like, I was obviously starting with Ireland at one stage, but I never thought I was going to be in the mix for it.
Yeah. How were you able to, like, watch the games, and did you enjoy it as a fan?
Yeah, of course I did. Yeah. It's hard to not have a Lions tour on and watch it, like, so. Yeah. Especially when you're friends with the lads.
Definitely. You know? Yeah. Not just because, again, it's something that, like, it's so rare. Like, again, it's a once every 4-year cycle. Like, so again, you have to have a lot going for you at that moment in time to.
Absolutely. Everything needs to click at the right time.
Yeah. Were you ever involved in any of the original camps or anything like that when they would have got together? Like,
the Lions stuff.
Yeah.
No. The most I got to it was the Lions management came into all the Ireland Welsh camps and got us to try on gear just in case we did get picked.
Jesus,
so I was able
yeah.
to try on the gear and was saying, "Oh, okay, I'm a 2XL for that." Like, but then you're like, "There's no way I'm getting this." Like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Look, it's a strange one because you're probably watching because you go on tour with Ireland around the same time, don't you?
end of the season, so we were going tour in the June or time.
Yeah. So you probably are watching the games and you're not wishing for anyone to get injured. That's not probably the nice. You'd never say that, but again, that's probably the only thing that's going to happen that potentially could open the door for you. Yeah.
But yeah, when there's line tours on, there was always kind of a cool tour as well. So I think the one that I remember is we went to America and Canada. We did one year, and I think we did Japan another year. And they were both class. They're like their class. Do you know
Are they kind of more enjoyable because would they be a little bit less pressurized than other international games?
Yeah, they would.
Yeah,
a little bit.
Yeah.
And just the tours are really enjoyable. To be honest, yeah, they're like you're kind of because at that stage I was kind of more one of the more kind of senior players as well, so I was able to kind of take a bit more responsibility and stuff like and kind of enjoy yourself a bit more.
Yeah, but like when you went on tour, like the big one that stands out for me, like you went like. The Rugby World Cup, like it's a long tournament, especially if you go far in it. Like again, you could be away on camp for between starting camp for training and going away. It could be the guts of nearly 3 months by the time you're done and dusted. But the Rugby World Cup you were involved in was actually in England. So were you at that time? Were you able to travel over and back, or how did it work? You were over the whole time.
You were in there the whole time. But because it was so close, you had family and friends going over as well for the games. So like you kind of saw them. You weren't. You kind of weren't. It didn't feel like you were kind of away for so long.
You found that okay going away.
It was grand. Yeah, it was grand. Well, at that time, I didn't have kids. Do you know what I mean?
So
it was grand. That absolutely helps. Like.
Yeah. The World Cup games in particular, did they have a different feel about them compared to what you would have been used to? Like, was there added pressure to them, or did you feel different?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but again, they're special as well. Like I played in I don't know, was there still a record? But at the time we played Romania in Wembley, and it was 80,000 people, and it was packed out.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So like that's class. Do you know what I mean? And then what else? But then obviously that was the lost to Argentina in the quarterfinal, which didn't go great for us. Like, but like World Cup is special. Like.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool thing to be involved with. Now there was, you probably see where I'm going with this. I'm sure you get asked all the time. 4 years later, where at that I was just trying to go through the dates around the time. Like, it was a particularly strong time for you. You'd won a Heineken Cup, you'd won a Grand Slam, so everything was going really well. And like Joe was obviously the manager who had known you for a long time, and then for you not to get picked was, I think it was a shock to the whole nation, really. Can you remember how you found out about that? Because obviously I'm sure you had a close relationship with Joe at the time. Like, did he take you and give you a private word and say?
No, well, like I've spoken about this a lot. Like it's if everyone knows that if you're not going, you're going to get a phone call that night.
Okay.
So like, I was
the phone off.
I was just sitting at home watching TV with my wife, and I see Joe Schmidt come up on my phone. And I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
And then I saw it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to answer this. And then I answered it, and then it was like probably the shortest conversation I've ever had with him. He was like, basically, you're not going. I was like, all right, okay. And then that was it, basically. It was obviously a shock and a blow. I was expecting to go, but looking back on it, I didn't probably show enough in the warm up games. I probably didn't put as much as an importance to them that I should have.
I've obviously never been involved in, but I imagine those warm up games are very awkward to play in because yes, you want to do well and prove yourself, but you do not, like you've seen with Keane Healy, like you do not want to pick up an injury either as well. So it must be a very challenging game to play in.
Absolutely, yeah. But again, you need to be able to. That's probably to the detriment of me. I didn't show enough in those games to warrant me going on the plane. You know, so you do have to look after yourself, but you got to go show what you can do as well.
Yeah. But like that wasn't the end of your Ireland career. Like thankfully you back in again.
Yeah. So then after that World Cup, after Joe left, Andy came in, and Andy brought me back in to the squad, and then I was on the bench I got another 2 caps, or was it 3 caps? In the next Six Nations, then COVID happened, and then once COVID happened, then I didn't get back in.
Okay, what was the COVID situation like when you were playing? Can you remember? Because I'm sure had a bigger impact on Leinster at the time. Like, 'cause obviously you you were isolating, but yet you were part of a team and stuff like that. Like, would you have had to cut off access to family and stuff like that, like to be part of it, or how was it kind of managed?
Same as everyone else. We had to isolate and not see anyone. We had to go into the gym, and everyone took something home and started doing workouts at home.
We were doing our Joe Wicks. We
were doing our Joe Wicks. We were doing our Zoom yoga sessions, our Zoom loads of Zoom sessions, and then just playing the games in complete silence was completely weird, with no crowd. It was completely weird, but again, it was just kind of something you kind of had to. Everyone, it was the same for everyone,
just because I'd imagine it was a strange time being part of a team in that environment, where you're like getting, like, again, because it's such a close network that you have. And
but like there's just so much little things you need to go do when you go back into the gym when it was proper. Like you had to like sanitize the bars and sanitize everything you touched, and it was just such a.
I was running the gym, like as I said, that's what my gig, and it was. We look back on it now, I was like, how the fuck did we do what we did? Like like lads training.
You didn't even need to do it.
It was just we didn't know. We were told this is what you had to do. So if you wanted to operate, this is what you had to do. So you just did it. You were kind of grateful to be back open again. That you do what you had to be done.
Absolutely.
So look, please God, touch wood. That's all behind us now. Anyway, but I suppose like when we get back to what we're talking about there, like the rugby side of things, like there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows there, and like up to a couple of weeks ago, I could have introduced you as the highest cap holder ever for Leinster until like I just mentioned there, Cian Healy overtook you. There's a great video I seen you actually presented him with the cap. It was the magic numbers. You've 280.
I'm 280.
Yeah, and he was 281.
He was 281.
It was only about 3 or 4 weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago. Yeah.
What was it like being back in the dressing room to see him and being back around the lads again? Was it?
Yeah, it was great. It was really nice to be invited back. Obviously, got to go to the game as well. Brought my young fella as well. So it was brilliant. And at one stage, the camera panned to me in the crowd, and everyone kind of gave a little bit of a cheer, and it was great. And then Max took that opportunity to just mess a bit, but it was grand. It was he really enjoyed it, and then he really enjoyed going back into the dressing room afterwards. And I just gave a little speech because like. Cian's a special player. Do you know what I mean? Like to do what he's done for so long, at the standard that he has for so long, it's unbelievable. Like and to the fact that he's back into the Ireland camp now, I don't think he's only. Is it 2 caps behind Draco for the Ireland as well? So like he's
had some very serious neck injuries as well.
He nearly retired. He nearly retired with a neck injury. He at one stage he couldn't open and close his hands properly.
There was a guy training me at the time. I think was on a stag with him before, and I think he had just got the operation. I remember him saying they were having a bit of a laugh because it was like the perfect grip he had for like holding a beer can or something like that, because he couldn't move his hand.
He couldn't move his hand. He got his mum to create a glove for him that he was able to catch a ball that actually was able to straighten his fingers again. Do you know what I mean? So he was struggling catching the ball properly.
Yeah,
so
he was back to what
he nearly retired, but to have that amount of time out as well, because he tore his hamstring off the bone at one stage as well. So like he's had a lot of time out, but to get them that amount of caps, it's unbelievable.
And what about yourself over the years? Would you have struggled with many injuries yourself? Because obviously you've had a very consistent career to hit the numbers you've hit. Would you have had?
I was lucky. Thank God. I got out lucky as well. I've never had anything serious, to be honest. That's one of the things that stood to me of why I was able to get so many. Do you mean? So like I was consistent, and it was kind of if in my early years, if someone was injured, Dev can go and do a job, like So the most I ever did, I broke my ankle playing for Lansdowne once. But that was at the end of the season. I was able to. I got right over the season. Yeah.
What would you have done like week to week? Because I'm sure there's a massive element of luck, because again it's an impact sport. So you can do everything right and you can get smashing a tackle and you break something. But in general, like what was the day like a standard week for you when you were training and eating, and how did that look for you? Because obviously you did a lot of things right to get to the consistency you got. You would have had to control a lot of the controllables in order for that to happen. So what would the standard week look like, and what would you have kind of focused on?
Standard week, match on a Saturday, in on a Monday, a lot of videos and work. So like you do a gym in the morning, pitch session in the afternoon, but you might have like unit sessions or video sessions in between them. Tuesday again, you might have pitch in the morning and then gym in the afternoon. You have Wednesday off. Thursday you'd have gym and then light session, and then Friday captain's run, no gym, and then match on Saturday. And then in and all around, dotted in that, there'd be like forward sessions, there'd be line out sessions, there'd be videos, there'd be team sessions. So like you're in from 8 and you're out gone by 4.
Okay. And would you have done extra stuff yourself, like mobility work, flexibility stuff, or was that all part of your gym work, or would you have taken extra responsibility on certain things?
No,
like
I
that?
was never really one for extras, to be honest.
I was expecting a big speech here of you do this, and this,
No,
and you're working on all these things.
Looking back on it, I probably should have done more, and then I probably would have got picked for the World Cup. But no, I don't know why I didn't get injured. I'm just lucky.
Yeah.
I kind of say it's because I never ran fast enough, or I didn't hit hard enough. Do you know what I mean? So I think a big thing it was luck. To be honest. Yeah.
And we spoke a little bit off air just before starting because Daniel Davey was in here a while back on the podcast.
Yeah.
The work you would have done with Daniel, like I know he explained it really well to me. His whole thing was education of the players rather than prescription.
Yeah.
So he wasn't just like giving you what to do. He was trying to educate you guys and get you to buy in. And he said like simple things like the WhatsApp group be quite busy and lads posting and sharing recipes and stuff like that. Yeah. Like would you have been given set targets? Because obviously the forwards especially, they have to carry a lot of size, and the level and volume of training you're doing there, you're burning through a lot of calories every day. Like were you given set calories to follow each time, or was it that rigid, or were you just told to eat what you want and just stay within a certain weight?
It's rigid if you wanted it to be, and as I never really wanted it to be that rigid. And like Dan Davey he was class with Leinster. He's brilliant at what he does. He has a wealth of knowledge around nutrition, obviously. But as I said, the big thing for him was education around the younger lads about because they're just after moving out from home. They need some obviously nutritional help on how to cook. But from my point of view, when Dan came in, I was already big into cooking. I loved cooking. I didn't really need help in the cooking department, so I knew what to do and when to do it. And from my point of view, when I was a front 5 forward, I needed to be heavy. So like I kind of ate what I wanted, to be honest.
You got away with it.
I got away with it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And like obviously, over the years, my body fat and skin folds weren't great, I suppose. But like I kept the weight on, and I was able. I like my work around the pitch. I was quite efficient in what I did. So like kind of I was able to carry that extra weight probably a little bit better than other people. So as I said, I didn't really need Dan's help in that sort of things because I probably didn't want to be that rigid. And
because we spoke there, we've mentioned how like you kind of come in the crest of the wave with the professionalism coming in, so the likes of I'm sure you probably were made do DEXA scans and the body fat and skin calipers and stuff like that. Like how were you kind of, if you were performing on the pitch and were you kind of left at it, or was it something that you were kind of, when you go into pre-season, were you told, look, you're this much overweight, or you have to do this? Like how?
Yeah,
it's kind of regimental, was it?
It's kind of a case by case basis. Yeah. You do the DEXA, you do everything, you do it like. But if you're playing regularly and you're starting and you're playing well and you're making your tackles and you're making they don't really care.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I think that's the way it should be. By the way,
one of the head of strength and conditioning with Leinster now is a fellow called Charlie Higgins. He's an Aussie guy who came in and he is very much of that mindset that if you're doing your job and you're doing everything right and you have an extra 1%, 2% body fat, then you're grand. Do you know what I mean? But it's once you see the performance dropping off because of that, that's when you need to step in and you need to find and then you need to do something about it. But it's always it is a score mentally that you look at yourself as well. So saying if you look at the second row score, saying okay, I'm 20%, but this fella's 17%. It's a thing you kind of look at as well. You're kind of comparing as well, comparing and contrasting as well. But it's all individual. It's all case by case basis.
And like within the dressing room itself, then like, were you all one big group, or like would you have your kind of like, I'm sure you're not going to be the same level of closeness with every single person in a squad of like 30, 40 odd guys. Yeah. But like, would the forwards tend to stick with the forwards, the backs tend to stick with the backs, or how would that sort of land?
It's whoever you're friends with.
Would you be given a designated, say traveling away, would you be given a designated roommate, for example, or would you pick your own, or how did that
No, you don't pick your own. You're not designated, but whoever was doing the rooms knows who's kind of friendly with you, and you kind of, I would have like a handful of people that I would have stayed with. Do you know what I mean? So like they put you with who they think are going to put you, who you're friendly with. And it's not forwards and forwards, backs and backs, but like sometimes it doesn't probably work out like that because you spend so much time with them.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So like,
you're doing your specific stuff. It's like if you're going doing lineouts for an hour or two, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Again, you're just
pretty much,
the same lads.
Yeah.
Would you have had the same roommate over the years, or did it change a bit?
changes because the squad's changed so much over the years, doing so much over the years. Like my early years with Leinster, I would have played a lot with Kevin McLaughlin. He was one of my good friends. Would have room with Reese quite a lot. Then Jack McGrath would have been very friendly with him. Then when Mike McCarthy came in, was with Mike a fair bit. So like it changes as the squad comes and goes. Like you know,
no, it's funny because you listen to different people talk about their sporting career. And particularly footballers, and they say like they kind of make a joke like they've spent more time in a bedroom with their roommate than they have their own partners, because they travel so much with what they do. Some on the travel side of things, like you mentioned there, like obviously your dad now, your son Max he's 6
he's
or 7.
Yeah, 7, and Grace is 4.
Cool. So like you were obviously still playing when they came into your life.
Yeah.
Can you remember like did it change everything when you were playing? Like did it ever? I'm conscious you play a high impact sport where you're putting your body on the line, and then like you become a father, you know, it changes maybe something in your head. Like did that mess with you in any way, shape or form playing, and then also then the travel side of things as well? Did it affect you a bit more?
The actual playing probably didn't affect me that much. No, I didn't change anything I didn't do anything really. The travel probably felt more guilty leaving, because when Max was a baby, he had a dairy protein intolerance, so he was a tough baby for the first 2 years, 3 years. He just didn't sleep. So I felt really guilty leaving Mary to go off for 2 days for an away game, or even if we were going for, I think one of the first years he was born, there was a tour in Japan, so I was gone for 3 weeks, three and a half weeks. So I felt really guilty going off doing that. So I was always kind of ringing back, checking in, and that, but it didn't really affect my playing of the game, you know.
But again, I'm sure a lot of you guys, like as you get the senior guys, would have probably been in a similar situation as well. Like, it's
something you don't realize though. You know what I mean? So like when you're 20, 21 in the squad, I know there's lads in the squad who have kids, but you don't realize how hard it is for them.
Yeah, and particularly like that, if you've been kept up all night by a child trying to go in and perform the next day, it's quite tough as well. I wouldn't fancy that. So with this, we're talking about here, like fatherhood comes into your life, like, and again, like you've had such a consistent career. Like I think you're a bit soft on yourself. Like you're pawning it off, like like you know, I didn't pay too much focus on this, that, or the other. But to be honest, like from what I'm getting from this, you focused on what really mattered. You seen what your strengths were. You fucking double down on them, and as a result, you've had a savage career. And as I said, apart from if Cian Healy didn't come back again, and even like it's whether someone has 281 or 282, it's no impact on the fact 280 caps is phenomenal. What do you think like is the ultimate strength? Like if I say had a young kid who was looking to get into sport, any sport really, like what would the lessons or the advice that Devin Toner would give them to say to really like to make the most out of their potential of what they have? Is it that they just focus on their strengths, or is it something else?
No, that's one of the things that stuck out for me was focusing on the strengths, because a lot of the times people would say, oh, find what you're weak at and try and get better at them. But then obviously see your strengths, but then practice them as well and get better at them and be the best that you can be at them, and then you get picked. So as I said there, the best thing that happened for me was I was consistent. So you got to be able to play week in, week out at the same ability and do it the best you can. So it's very, very cliche, but just work hard. Do you know what I mean? And put the work in, and do your duty. For me, it was my line out ability and my line out calling ability, and I was able to put the work in there and doing kind of studying it. Do you know what I mean? Learning from the best. And I learned from Leo Cullen. I learned from Paul O'Connell so much from them, and I was able to see how much work they put in and how much video they put in of the analysis of the opposition. So it's kind of working at your craft and obviously nailing it down.
Yeah, like you said, work hard is a given, but I think you have to be intelligent on what you focus on, and I think that's you kind of mentioned there that like I'm sure a lot of people are quick to point out what you're not good at and what you need to improve on. But as you said, if you have the right perspective and focus your energy and attention on the right things, like,
no, but there are stuff you need to, like if you're told by a coach that you need to fix something, you need to fix it. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things for me. When I was in my early years, I remember my body position going into a scrum, I had like a bent back going into it, and Mike Brewer was the forward coach, and he said, you've got to fix this, basically. So I remember he pulled me and Cian Healy into the room, and he was like, this is Cian, you're going to be playing with Cian for the next 15 years. And I was like, fuck, am I? Jesus.
Yeah.
So like we were kind of had to work together to kind of get a good body position and get my back right. And so like if a coach tells you that this is your weakness, you got to sort this out. You got to sort it out.
It was spot on, to be fair, wasn't it?
100%. Yeah.
You mentioned there like a couple of names like Leo and Paul. They've popped up once or twice. Like, would they strike me? The word that comes to mind about them is like leaders on the leaders on the pitch would be the phrase. Would they have been the biggest leaders you played with, or would there have been anyone else as well, like over the years, that would have had a big impact, particularly in the earlier years? We mentioned a few kind of big names in the dressing rooms.
Leo and Paul were the main ones, because Leo went to Leicester for 2 years, then came back. When he came back to Leinster, he kind of revolutionised it with Czech. Do you know what I mean? So it was kind of him and Czechs together.
They were obviously, were they a few years ahead over in the UK?
Yeah. So I think it must.
What they were doing.
I think so. I think he learned stuff over there that he brought back.
Would he have played with Martin Johnson? Was Martin Johnson still playing, or he just finished?
No, I don't know. I think it was him and Ben Kay, maybe, or in that kind of era. I'm not sure about Martin Johnson.
Is there something special about the lock position? Because a lot of names are mentioned there, like they're all big leaders. Is that position bring out the leader in someone, or is it just kind of by coincidence that a lot of captains would have happened to play that position?
Who knows?
Yeah,
you know, like you again, you see it is maybe just because you're in the thick of it. Maybe because most of the second rows are line out leaders as well. They kind of are kind of accustomed to it, you know. So, but it's different with every team, like.
And like when you're out playing on the pitch and you have these big leaders, you often hear people talk about like some it's the managers who you're trying to impress and they're in your head. Whereas for other people to say, yeah, look, I had respect for the manager, but it was more some of my peers on the pitch and some of the players I was playing with.
Yeah.
Had you one over the other that you were always kind of conscious of, like say like playing with Ireland and if Paul was your captain and you're playing right beside him? Was that kind of the inspiration? I got to keep this guy happy. If I can keep him happy, I know I'm doing something right. Or would you be more on the manager side of things?
Yeah, when you're actually playing in the actual game, you're not thinking about the coaches or managers. You're not thinking about them at all. You're thinking about your job. You're thinking about what's next. But you're also thinking about the lads around you and listening to them. And like, as I said, yeah, Paul, who was class, you'd run through a wall for him after he'd have a team talk, you know? So like, when you're actually on the pitch, that's when you want to do it for your teammates. You want to do it for the lads around you, you know? And you don't want to let them down. That's one of the things that's why Sexto got to where he was, because lads didn't want to let him down. Yeah, you know, because he set the standard so high. He was able to push it and drive you, and he wouldn't be shy about telling you if you mess something up. Like.
Michael Jordan had a great quote. I'm not sure if you watched the documentary on him, and he said like, "I never asked anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself." And I think that all the guys were mentioning there, like I think they would have backed everything up that they probably asked you to do.
100%.
In the heat of battle, like you've obviously played some massive games. Like I'm just trying to have my dates down here. It was 4 Heineken Cups you won with Leinster, and 2 of them were obviously back to back, and then obviously 3 Six Nations in there. One of which was the Grand Slam. Yeah. Of all the big games you played in, is there any that stand out for you the most that like just felt extra special? I'm sure there's more than one, but like.
Well, the one extra special one that I always keep kind of go back to is the All Blacks in Chicago.
Yeah.
So that was a special for other reasons, obviously, because we just had never gotten over the line before, and to be able to do that and how we did it was class. But other than that, like obviously winning the Heineken Cup at Leinster in 2018 was class as well, because that was the kind of the first Heineken Cup that I'd won that I was kind of the mainstay and it started. Do you know what I mean? So the 3 previous I was on the bench for all 3 finals, which it's class. You know, no one's going to take it away from you, but it's not the same as starting. Yeah, it's not the same as being able to being important to the team. Do you know what I mean? So that 2018 win for Leinster was class, and like I suppose the 2018 year for me as a whole was probably one of my best years, because we got that Grand Slam. Now I was on the bench for Ireland for the Grand Slam, but I'd started 2 of the games in that Six Nations maybe, but we won obviously the Heineken Cup at Leinster. We won the Grand Slam, and then we went to tour Australia as well, and we won a tour down in Australia as well, which was class, and that was a great way to finish off the year.
Yeah, you literally, it couldn't have been any better, really, could it? Like you did everything. Class. Yeah. What were you like as a substitute?
I think very similar to what I was when I started. I was consistent. I came on and I was able to slot in. One of the things that Joe kind of rammed home with all the subs was when you get on, you want to fit in. You don't want to like a lot of times when someone gets on, they want to get out of the line, they want to maybe hit somebody, they want to show why they should be starting, but that's not what he wanted. He wanted people to be able to slot in and being able to get back into the game gradually. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't want someone.
Would you have been told to watch certain things, like when you're on the bench, like to pay attention to maybe the opposition or certain patterns of play or anything like that?
Yeah. And like if you're on the bench for a second row spot, I would and you would look at their lineouts and see what they're doing and have a quick word at halftime with whoever the lineout caller was. So like that's one of the things that me and Ross Maloney played in Leinster. He's in Bath now, but we did a lot together. So like if I was starting, he'd be on the bench and he'd be telling me what he'd seen. But if I was on the bench and he was starting, then I'd be telling him what I saw, kind of thing. Like so.
That's in the dressing room at halftime.
In the dressing room at halftime, you can so you might be able to tweak something at halftime.
That's cool. Yeah.
So it's very
exactly there. Yeah. So I could talk to you about rugby all day, being honest with you, but I'm conscious like that was a part of your life, and you've moved on since then, and you've now gone into the world of financial planning. Yeah. So can you talk us through how that kind of came about? And how, because again, a previous guest we've had on here, Ask Paul, is who you're working with now with Fairstone.
Yeah, so. I work with Paul Merriman in the financial planning world. So basically, I was coming up to the end of my career, and I knew my last contract. I knew that was going to be my last contract. So I was but in no man's land, not knowing where I was going, what I was doing. So I went to meet a career coach. And the first thing that she said to me was, you need to go and get your finances sorted. So I had followed Paul online just randomly because I saw that he had done like an interview with Jamie or at some stage, whatever. And I just
Jamie Heaslip.
And I just reached out saying, here, can I come in for a review? So I came in and I did a financial plan with Paul himself. And it was kind of mind-blowing to see your wealth over time grow and shrink and what you can do differently. And it was kind of it was a really class way to set in front of you your life, basically.
Yeah. For anyone listening to this who hasn't gone through that process, I cannot recommend it enough. I've done it myself, and just to see figures and how it maps out and how investments work and different things.
Absolutely.
Like, and again, it doesn't have to be mega figures here we're talking about to get started. It just, as someone who's gone through the process, I can't recommend this enough. So we might talk about your details afterwards.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
A lot of people benefit from it.
When I'm looking at my graph though, I can see the wealth grow to 36 and then stop. Nothing. Do you know what I mean? So like rugby.
And like, obviously you do well in rugby, but like
it's not like soccer.
You're not owning 4 gaffs by the end of your career.
Absolutely not. And like, the lads who live in Dublin have to live and buy gaffs in Dublin. So like it's not soccer money at all. Do you mean? So you obviously had a mortgage to pay, you've got creche fees, you've got everything to pay after. So you need a job basically. But that was a year before retirement, and then I built up a relationship with Paul. And then after my second or third meeting, he kind of said to me, "What do you think of doing after rugby?" And I was like, "I have no idea." And he was like, "Well, here there might be an opportunity here. Do you want if you want to look at financial advice?" And I was like, I spent a week or two thinking about it. And I was like, actually, yeah, here, sure, I'll give it a shot. So then I spent my last year doing the QFAs, so the Qualified Financial Advising exams. So I did them, and then retired in June, and then started with Paul in September. So I'm at the minute, I'm not advising anyone. I'm not an advisor. I'm head of partnerships. So Paul and a lot of other advisors do financial wellness for business and corporates.
Yeah.
So my job is to get into kind of business and corporates to do for Paul to do. We call them money master classes. So he would do like an hour presentation of what you need to have a robust financial plan.
So it's kind of like your rugby. You're breaking down the doors and opening the holes. And
kind of
like the flashback going and then getting all the glory.
Exactly. So I'm the kind of the relationship builder and kind of
which is a massive role. Absolutely. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's very important for companies to provide this.
So you are actually qualified as an advisor. It's just it's not the role you have.
No, absolutely. Yeah, qualified. Yeah. I thought it was important to have a bit of, I don't know, clout behind me.
Definitely,
when I'm talking to business and corporates and stuff like that.
Yeah. So would you be tempted in the future? Or is it hard to call?
You never know. You never know.
I'd say it'd be quite hard. Like if you're trying to give someone financial advice and they're like,
I know.
Probably trying to ask what's Johnny Sexton like?
What's
Brian
O'Driscoll
like?
Yeah,
You're trying to look here, listen to what I'm talking about.
Exactly. I know. Yeah. But you never know.
Like what you're doing now, we'll talk about this just at the end, because I'm sure some people will massively benefit from reaching out and going through this process. As I said, I can't recommend enough. But you also have some other interests as well. Something that struck me as well is that you have you've an interest in a local brewery as well in County Wicklow. The brewery is based. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I got my fingers in a few pies now since I've retired. So I got the opportunity to invest in a couple of things, which has been class. So one of the fellas I work with are head of private clients, a fellow called Conor Byrne. His 3 brother-in-laws set up a brewery 5 or 6 years ago. I think the 3 lads were sick of their 9 to 5s. They packed it all in, started a brewery. It's called Oh Brother Brewing. And they grew it, and it's the beer has gotten very popular.
Their branding is class.
Their branding is class.
Top class. Yeah.
Exactly. I think they partnered with a local artist, and the cans look class. And then so I got the chance to jump on board 2 years ago now, I think, nearly, or maybe a year and a half ago, because they are expanding and they're creating a visitor centre where they are.
Cool.
So it's in Belmont Domain in Wicklow.
Cool. So you can go and see how it's made.
Exactly. So they're doing a kind of a tasting and visitor centre. So and the setting is class because there's loads of kind of hiking trails and walking trails that you can go in Wicklow, and it's a really kind of nice kind of family area as well. So it's an exciting time to be involved in that anyway.
Is there any other ones you'd like to mention that you're involved with? Any other business?
I was able to jump in with two restaurants as well. So one I got the chance to invest in Big Mike's down in Blackrock with Gaz. He's a class chef down doing great things down there in Blackrock. And then a new pizzeria opening up called Reggie's. So I don't know if you ever heard of Reg White. He's the pizza guru of Ireland.
Okay, right, yeah.
He's got a cult following for pizza. So he's been doing his thing for the last while, but he's finally got he's opening up his own place in Rathmines. Yeah. Hopefully start November, I think.
Is it called Reggie's Pizza?
It's called Reggie's. Okay. Yeah. So it hasn't opened yet, but it'll be opening in Rathmines now in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
Cool, yeah.
So I was able to for that. Yeah, so delighted to be involved in that anyway.
Yeah, because you're big into your food, and your wife was a chef as well, and she had her own food business.
She's gone through a lot of different things. So she did the Ballymaloo cookery course, and then after that she did a stint in Chapter 1 as a pastry chef. Yes. And then she did a stint doing her own custom cake business. Yeah. And then she stopped that, and then she started a website. It was a two-sided marketplace for finding cakes, basically. But now she's doing her own thing. Now she's actually working for Brown Thomas marketing. She's had a
She's obviously very entrepreneurial.
Absolutely.
She's done, yeah.
100%,
Did you actually go down to visit the Ballymaloo Cookery School? I did. Unbelievable.
Yeah,
it's an amazing place.
I did.
Yeah.
She did the 3-month one. I went down for a weekend or two and it was class.
Yeah, it's like paradise.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
The setup they have is unreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Look, everything you've done there, like, it's a great chat with you, Devin. I said, like, when I was talking to you, I said the challenge we're going to have here is to try and keep this around an hour for the career you've had. And I think for a lot of people, they probably don't realize the level of caps that you've had. You're like to call it, like, the word legend gets thrown around a lot in sport, but like, being honest with you, like 280 caps for Leinster, like, that's legendary. And I think you're probably undersell yourself at times for what you've done. Like, again, you fob off the professional side of things, but like, you can't do that by accident. And I think for me, the lesson I'm getting from you today is that, like, and particularly if you think back to what you mentioned when you were younger, like I mentioned about, I was self-conscious of my height as well, and like something for my own appearance as well. I used to always get slagged for having a big arse, and I used to be quite conscious of it. But when I went playing football, then being tall and having a big arse had massive advantages. So you kind of double down on it then, and then you realize actually it's something that really helps you. So for yourself, I think the big thing you're saying there is that, like, stuff that maybe when you were younger and a bit conscious of that made you stand out when you didn't want to stand out, all of a sudden when you get to older life, these can be massive advantages for 100%. You. And I said, double down on your strengths as opposed to stressing about the weaknesses.
Absolutely.
You can be clever on that as well. Yeah. Devin, look, I thoroughly enjoyed this. For anyone who's listening that would like to find out more on the financial planning side of things, what's the best way to kind of reach out or get in touch? Is it best to go to the Ask Paul website or the social medias, or to reach out to a particular email?
Yeah, I think everyone has their own journey. First of all, maybe just give Ask Paul a follow on Instagram. Like we did a lot of free content goes out. Paul is really
excellent. He's excellent.
A lot of free content. The website askpaul.ie has a lot of kind of free content. There's free personal financial planners, or budget planners, and the savings challenges and everything. But if and it's kind of free to book in as well. If anyone wants to book in for a financial plan, they're free of charge at the minute.
That's really
absolutely
good. Yeah,
if you want to get in, doing an hour hour financial planning consultation. There, just you can book and you can pick whatever time you want on the website. Yeah.
Will the auto enrollment that's coming in affect things in any way, shape, or form, or do you know where that's going to land yet? I know it's fully decided.
Yeah, it's due to start in September of next year. So it's obviously will affect business owners mainly, and everyone's situation is different. I think some people are waiting for us, some people aren't. But it all depends on the situation of.
But a lot of business owners would actually listen to this podcast, so if they'd probably be a good idea for them to maybe reach out. They might have their own financials in place, but again, 100%. What's coming down the road, the obligation is going to be on them, isn't it, to have it set up for their employees. So maybe again, that could be a reason to reach out to you guys and get a bit of advice.
100%.
Look, Devin, that's fantastic. I really appreciate your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me.